The world calls him a legend, but behind the fame, Keanu Reeves lived a life few could survive. He lost the woman he loved. He lost his child before ever holding her. And then, he chose something no one expected. No scandals. No revenge. No chasing love. Just one quiet sentence that explains everything. This is why I'm single. And once you hear the reason, you'll never look at love the same way again. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Now, let's dive into what really happened, and no one was prepared for what Keanu Reeves said next. In an industry where celebrities carefully choose every word, where relationships are announced with photo shoots and breakups become headlines, Keanu did the opposite. He didn't sit under bright studio lights or speak at a glamorous event. There was no script, no performance. Just a quiet moment, and one honest sentence that instantly caught the world's attention. This is why I'm single. Those 5 words carried more weight than any Hollywood scandal. There were no flashing cameras, no dramatic background music, no emotional build-up. Just truth. And somehow, that truth felt heavier than any carefully crafted interview. Keanu Reeves has always lived differently from other stars. While many chase luxury, attention, and constant validation, he chooses simplicity. He walks alone through New York streets without bodyguards. He rides the subway like a regular person. He sits quietly, observing life instead of performing for it. This is the man who became one of the biggest stars in the world, without ever trying to look like one. Fans don't admire Keanu only because he played iconic roles in John Wick or The Matrix. They admire him because of who he is when the cameras are off. Calm, humble, thoughtful. A man who listens more than he speaks. A man who carries depth without showing off his pain. So when Keanu finally opened up about why he spent so much of his life alone, people leaned in, not out of curiosity, but out of respect. Everyone sensed that this wasn't a celebrity complaining about dating. This was something deeper. Something human. This wasn't a story about failed relationships or bad timing. It wasn't about fame making love difficult. It was about loss. About wounds that never fully disappear. About learning how to live with pain instead of running from it. Keanu's words didn't ask for sympathy. They invited understanding. They reminded people that sometimes, choosing to be alone isn't weakness, it's survival. Sometimes it's not about missing love, but about protecting what's left of your heart. And in that quiet honesty, the world realized something powerful. This wasn't just Keanu Reeves speaking. This was a man choosing peace over pain, and finally explaining why. Long before the world knew Keanu Reeves as a global icon, before the action films, the fame, and the applause, he was simply a man in love. In the late 1990s, Keanu was in a deeply serious relationship with Jennifer Syme. Their bond wasn't built for cameras or headlines. It wasn't about red carpets, designer outfits, or public displays. It was quiet, genuine, and private. 2 people finding comfort in each other while dreaming about a future that felt real and full of promise. They weren't chasing fame together. They were building a life. But then, without warning, everything changed. Keanu and Jennifer were expecting a child, a moment that should have marked the happiest chapter of their lives. Instead, it became the most painful. Their daughter was stillborn, a loss so heavy it shattered them both. No words could soften the pain. No success, no money, no fame could fill the silence that followed. Keanu was heartbroken, but he tried to be strong. He tried to survive the grief, holding on to love while carrying unbearable sorrow. And just when he was beginning to breathe again, fate delivered another devastating blow. Jennifer Syme died in a tragic car accident not long after. In a cruel twist of destiny, Keanu lost his child, and then the woman he loved, in a painfully short span of time. 2 losses that would break most people forever. And Keanu never pretended otherwise. He didn't give emotional interviews. He didn't seek attention or sympathy. He didn't turn his grief into headlines. Instead, he went quiet. He disappeared into his work, into long hours on set, and into himself. Acting became not an escape, but a way to survive. Years later, when asked about loss, Keanu shared a sentence that felt simple, but cut deep. Grief changes shape, but it never ends. Those words revealed everything. Love, for Keanu, was never the same after that. It wasn't easy anymore. It wasn't light. It came with memories, pain, and the fear of losing everything again. That moment changed how he saw relationships forever. From that point on, love wasn't just about happiness. It was about risk. And sometimes, that risk felt too heavy to carry again. As Keanu Reeves' fame continued to rise, so did the curiosity around his personal life. The movies became bigger. The applause grew louder. But one thing never changed. Keanu was almost always alone. And people noticed. Why isn't he married? Why doesn't he date publicly? Why does someone so admired choose solitude? For years, Keanu avoided answering these questions. Not because he didn't care, but because some truths are too personal to explain. But when he finally spoke, his words were not dramatic or defensive. They were honest. And deeply human. Keanu admitted that after losing the people he loved the most, something inside him changed forever. He didn't stop believing in love. He didn't grow bitter. What changed was something quieter, but heavier. He stopped trusting the idea that love comes without loss. He once explained that relationships demand emotional risk, the willingness to open your heart fully, knowing it could break. And after experiencing the worst pain imaginable, Keanu became careful with his heart. Not out of fear, but out of awareness. I don't want to hurt anyone, he said. And I don't want to be the cause of pain. Those words revealed everything. For Keanu, being single was never about loneliness or rejection. It was about responsibility. About understanding that unresolved grief doesn't disappear just because time passes. And about refusing to bring that hidden weight into someone else's life. Instead of chasing romance, Keanu chose a different path. He focused on kindness, small, quiet acts that never made headlines. He gave away millions of dollars to film crew members, helped strangers without cameras, and supported charities without ever attaching his name. He built deep friendships, not flashy relationships. And most importantly, he worked on finding peace within himself. To the outside world, his life looked lonely. But in reality, it was full of meaning, compassion, and purpose. Keanu's solitude was not emptiness. It was healing. It was a man learning how to live after unimaginable loss, choosing patience over pressure, and silence over noise. In a world that demands constant connection, Keanu Reeves showed that sometimes, stepping back is the bravest choice of all. The internet has a habit of turning loneliness into tragedy. When someone chooses to walk a quieter path, the world often assumes something is broken. Keanu Reeves, despite being one of the most loved actors on the planet, experienced this firsthand. Photos of him sitting alone on a park bench went viral. Memes flooded social media, calling him Sad Keanu. People speculated endlessly. Was he depressed? Heartbroken? Lost? Did fame fail to fill the void in his life? The assumptions were relentless, and the story being told by millions was far from the truth. But the truth about Keanu's life is far more complex, and far more inspiring. When asked about all the speculation, he responded simply, calmly, and surprisingly, "I'm not sad. I enjoy my life." That single sentence shocked the world. How could someone who looked so alone, so quiet, actually be happy? The answer was simple. Keanu's happiness doesn't depend on constant attention, public relationships, or even companionship. His joy comes from within. Keanu finds fulfillment in the small and meaningful things, engaging conversations, the thrill of riding a motorcycle, the escape of a good book, the beauty of art, and quiet moments of reflection. He values quality over quantity, depth over appearance, connection over publicity. To him, life isn't about proving happiness to others, it's about living it authentically. In a world obsessed with constant companionship, hashtags, and social validation, Keanu Reeves reminds everyone that happiness doesn't follow a single path. Sometimes it's found in silence. Sometimes it's found in solitude. Sometimes it's found in letting go of what we can't control and embracing what truly matters. Keanu's story teaches an important lesson. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it sits quietly on a bench in the sunlight, smiling at the world without needing anyone else to validate it. Healing doesn't always happen with company. Sometimes it's a personal journey, walked alone, in reflection and acceptance. And love, as Keanu has learned, is not always about holding on. Sometimes it's about letting go, with grace, understanding, and courage. In a world quick to judge and label, Keanu Reeves stands as a quiet testament to the power of peace, authenticity, and inner joy. He shows that being alone isn't a weakness, it can be a choice, a strength, and a path to real happiness. When Keanu Reeves says, "This is why I'm single," he isn't seeking pity or sympathy. He isn't sharing this story to gain followers or headlines. He is offering something far more valuable: perspective. In a world that constantly measures happiness by relationships, weddings, or social media posts, Keanu's life reminds us that love does not come with deadlines or rules. There is no requirement to move on quickly, to rush into a new romance, or to prove to anyone that you are over heartbreak. Healing is personal, and it takes as long as it needs to. Keanu chose peace over pressure. He chose patience over performance. He chose depth over noise. While the world around him judged his choices, he focused on becoming the kind of person who could face life with calm and integrity, rather than simply chasing what everyone expected him to want. Eventually, when Keanu did step into a relationship again later in life, it wasn't forced or dramatic. There were no public displays for cameras, no headlines announcing a new romance. It was quiet, respectful, and real, proof that love can return when the heart is ready, not on anyone else's schedule. This demonstrates that true love is not about timing, but about readiness and emotional presence. Keanu's story also reminds us that being single does not equal failure. Many people assume that choosing solitude means a life unfulfilled, but sometimes the opposite is true. Sometimes being single means love has changed you. Sometimes it means you are protecting your heart from unnecessary pain. And sometimes it simply means you are still learning how to live fully after a loss, discovering joy and strength in your own company. In a world obsessed with noise, drama, and constant companionship, Keanu Reeves' quiet honesty is louder than any headline. It's a lesson in patience, resilience, and authenticity. It shows us that life is not a race to prove happiness, but a journey to understand it. That sometimes, the bravest choice is to embrace solitude and let the heart heal fully before giving it away again. Keanu's story teaches us that love is not always about possession or immediacy. It's about understanding, growth, and respect, for both yourself and others. And in this understanding, he has shown the world a different kind of strength: the courage to live fully, quietly, and authentically, on your own terms.